Welcome to Season 9 of the YouTube Competitive League. I'm Harry, your coach of the Sydney Star Raptors. After our semi-final loss last season to the eventual champion Nick, we're looking to bounce back with our first championship of our favourite league. Like always, the draft took place via snake method with 16 participants. First place taking their pick, then second, and so on until the 16th pick, and then going back again in reverse order with no Pokemon being able to be chosen twice. Each Pokemon has a dedicated value from 1 to 16 depending on its viability, with some being banned altogether, and each coach has a budget of 95 points to draft 10 to 12 Pokemon. They then allocate 2 to 3 Pokemon from their lower tiers in their roster to be Terra Captains, choosing 1 Stab type and 2 other types, as well as being able to use the newly added Stellar type, but I'll get to that a little later. After this, all coaches go head to head through the season with the playoffs to follow, and eventually a champion is crowned. Let's have a look at what I hope takes me to that championship. Starting off with Mega Delibird, an incredible wall breaker with the unresisted dual stab of Hydro Pump and Freeze Dry, pivot moves in Flip Turn and U-Turn, disruption in Encore and Taunt. It has the 6th highest speed in the draft at 136, and also has 124 in special attack. You better watch out, Iron Bundle is coming to town. Next up, the Pokemon I really wanted last season but missed out on. One of the best competitive Pokemon this generation, Jean Grey, the Galarian Slowking, gives me incredible versatility. With a great typing, incredible move pool, one of the best abilities in the game in Regenerator, I already know I'm going to love using this. Third, I decided to go for an early Terra Captain to make sure I got a good one, and I did exactly that. At only 5 points, Vision the Espeon with its 110 speed and 130 special attack, as well as a useful ability in Magic Bounce, is incredible. All Terra Captains in this season's YCL have access to Stellar as a Terra type. Being Stab, it will also have the Psychic Terra type to further increase its damage output from Psychic moves. I went with Fairy and Fighting as additional Terra options. Next, you can't have Vision without Wonder, so I went with Clefable as my next pick. One of the GOATs of competitive Pokemon since they changed this Pokemon to a Fairy type, this adds another incredibly versatile force to my increasingly strong roster. Able to run Unaware to deter setup sweepers, Magic Guard with Life Orb to boost its attacks, or even set up and go for game. Plus getting Recovery in Soft Boiled and Wish, Stealth Rocks, Knockoff, and Thunderwave. Speaking of GOATs of competitive play, let's add Landlord, the Landorus Therian. With a godly attack stat of 145, great typing, the Intimidate ability, U-Turn, Taunt, a range of coverage options, set up on the physical and special side with Bulk Up, Sword Stance, Calm Mind, and Nasty Plot, this was an easy pick for me heading into the midpoint of the draft. From this point, I still required a number of things to finalise my roster, one of which was a solid Dragon type. I went with Hydreigon for this. With good all-round stats allowing it to be run offensive or defensive, and a solid secondary typing of Dark, Dr. Dre was a perfect fit for my team. My original plan was to try and pair Hydreigon with Goldengo, as their typings complement each other perfectly. However, it didn't last until my turn. I wanted to take a Steel type this round to resist Psychic, Fairy and Flying type moves, as that is what I recognised as weak points in my roster. I decided to go with Maggie the Magneton. While being 4 times weak to ground, if you look at what I've picked up so far, Landorus and Hydreigon are immune, and Iron Bundle eats them for breakfast. The ability to trap and remove Pokemon like Corviknight and Skarmory with Magnet Pull ability is also extremely nice. I found myself thinking that there are quite a few specially offensive Pokemon that I don't handle at this point. So I went with the best special wall in the game next. In surprise, it's Kinder the Blissey. At 7 points, this was a bargain addition to my roster. With Soft Boiled, Stealth Rocks, Seismic Toss to give me a means of damage output, Shadow Ball and Thief to bother ghosts, this was a no-brainer for me. With only 10 of my 95 points remaining, I still had no hazard removal and was also eyeing the board for another strong Terra Captain. For 4 points, I went with Drift and Drifloon. It gives me tools like Defog, Strength Sap, Calm Mind, and a solid Ghost type which I felt my roster really needed. To bolster its capabilities even further, I made it my second Terra Captain with the type Stellar, both stabs in Ghost and Flying, as well as the Steel type. It also gets the ability Unburden, which pairs really well with my 10th pick in the draft, Baby Boomer the Thwacky. This adds another pivot to my team, strong priority in Grassy Glide, and respectable bulk once you factor in using a Violite. Those of you who've been following since the start of my draft journey, I love the Grookey line, so I'm extremely happy with this pick. To finish my draft off, with 2 points remaining, I decided to go for something that theoretically can do anything. I went with Artista the Smeagol. While it doesn't do anything particularly well, it does in theory do some pretty cool things. If I want to break a sash while setting hazards, Stone Axe and Ceaseless Edge. Maybe I want to put you to sleep and set sticky webs. Maybe I want to run Transform just to be your best Pokemon. You all think about that, YCL coaches, this thing is a threat. And that's my roster. We take on Squid to Feed in our round 1 match, which will start our weekly match uploads beginning next weekend. I'll be creating a playlist for the league and hopefully be bringing you some highly entertaining content. I hope to see you all with me for that journey, and if you like the breakdown, let me know in the comments.